Hello there, my friend. Welcome. So, I've seen that from the poll, quite a few of you wanted to know some ways that you could get some more divine tickets. And although I've sort of touched on this previously, I wanted to go through each of these step by step. And so, some of these are going to be very obvious, but I'm going to be adding in a little bit extra because, for instance, number one, the main thing that you want to be doing this month in order to get more divine tickets is playing and completing all of the weekly events that are ongoing this month. So the first one that we have is Cake Craze, and this event gives quite a lot of tickets total, a lot of extra ones that you don't have to pay for, and you can finish off this event free to play. Of course there's porcelain as well, but mainly getting these tickets will give you a big boost of tickets. And so, you know, you need to be able to do these Cake Craze events, so reroll until you get epic or legendary ingredients, do legendary recipes, finish this off. We do also have a list of all of the events that are going to be upcoming for this entire month in this post here, which is also linked in the DML news section of my Discord server. So if you ever want to get back to this link very quickly, you can just by scrolling up and clicking the link. But this one here shows us that this week we've got Cake Craze, the next week we're going to have a castle event, the week after that we're going to have a solo event, and then the week after that we're going to have another castle event. So it is really important that you finish off each of these weekly events for this month, get all of those bonus tickets, and then that is a very easy way to boost your ticket count. Now, the second thing that you're going to want to do in order to get more tickets is also going to be part of these mini events, because I did mention that we are going to have castle events. And castle events, maybe you've never seen them before, maybe you've seen them many times before in the past, but in these castle events, you're going to need dragons with as many unique elements as possible. So that is one major thing that you need to have prepared. You need to have as many unique elements on your team as possible, because you'll see that there are a lot of different fight tiles, and in order to complete the fights on the later levels, you're potentially at max only going to have 1 or 2 elements that you can use to do them. For instance, in the Divine Party Springs Renewal event, which is quite a recent castle event, in this level you could use Plant, Light, Legendary, and Primal mainly. There were a few shadow fights, a couple of other elements, but primarily it was a mix of a few different ones, and it means that if you didn't have these elements available to use, then that would be an incredibly expensive level. And not having the elements that you need to do these events is the difference between finishing them or not. And since you can also get divines and you can get the epics that you need for Chrono Isis for finishing these events as well, you want to make sure you've got as many unique elements as you can so that you can get the tickets from the castle event and so that you can actually finish the castle event itself. Number 3. Arguably the most important thing that you'll have to do for this entire event, especially if you've saved up gems, is going to be dungeon grinding. And I mean a lot of dungeon grinding. Every 6 hours, realistically, you should be aiming to log into the dungeon and doing a new brawl. And in this, your main goal should be to finish off the quests in the bottom right, or the tasks I guess I should say, so that you can get as many stepping stones as possible. The reason being that when you get these stepping stones, you can use them to open dungeon chests. And these dungeon chests during the Divine event are all going to have divine tickets inside. If you can open the purple MOC chest, as people call it, multiple open chest at the end, you'll get a range of divine tickets, and sometimes you can get bigger drops for divine tickets, like before we had up to, I believe it was 20 or 22, and sometimes you might get 10 out of this chest. So there is a range of divine ticket drops that you can get, but the idea is to open up this purple chest as many times as possible. If you can pick a good dungeon week to grind, such as this dungeon week is not too bad for a lot of players because there are quite a lot of earth dragons, but at the same time, early on it's difficult to get KOs going with your lower level dragons because the enemies have a lot of plant. So for some people it might be okay to grind this if you've got like 8 team members to use. If not, you might have a bit more of a struggle and maybe it's worth waiting for a better dungeon rotation. And if you're wondering what I mean by dungeon rotation, then you can see on the DML wiki there is this section that shows you the opponent pools for every single dungeon week, and so you can find out the pool that you're in by looking at the enemy dragons that you're facing, and it will show you all the way down to dragon number 104 in pool 1, for example, and then it will start bringing random enemies in. But you can use this to sort of gauge how good the dungeon week's going to be, because it shows you all of the opponent dragon's elements, and you can use that to base how you're going to play that dungeon week. But it is so very, very important. If you want to get the main rewards from this event free to play, this is how you do it. Dungeon grinding is the most important thing, because even if you don't manage to finish off the castle events for the bonus tickets and you can't finish off the solo events or the cake craze for the bonus tickets, maybe you're too busy, you can get things free to play by doing these quests, doing these tasks, getting the stepping stones and opening up those chests. If you have prepared and you've got a lot of gems to use, then this is the time where if you get a good dungeon week going, you'd want to use the gems, as in you can, for instance, start a new brawl, like restart, and you can pay gems to do this. Now, the only people really that can't do this and get much value out of it is anyone that's getting less than 1,000 stepping stones, which I know is quite a lot of players, especially those without divines. But the time when it becomes worth it to use this skip all button to do the dungeon runs is generally when you're above 1,000 stepping stones a run. However, if you can guarantee one of the altar dragons by using your gems, even if you get less than 1,000, if it's gonna be your first divine and you can get your hands on Freya, do it. But only do it if you can guarantee it. But at the same time, you'll get lots and lots of tickets if you manage to get a divine, so it's definitely worth it. The next really important thing to do to get more tickets during this event is to make a good team. Mainly so that then you can grind the dungeon with a good dungeon team, and also making sure you've got those unique elements so that you can do the castle event. But it can be very difficult depending on your point in the game where you're up to, but having a good team ready so that you can grind the castle events and the dungeon is incredibly important. And I have actually made a specific video on how you can make a good dungeon team in DML. For instance, I just typed in quackalakes how to make a good team, and this video will come up that will give you all of the minimum things that you need to do to have a good dungeon team and the specific elements mainly that you're going to need to use. I also gave a few team examples in here as well, but essentially you want to have double healing if you can, which is the only one that I'd really want to double up on elements with. You would want to have 2 divines and an ancient ideally in most teams, but you also need fire and earth, and this video goes through all of that, and it's really important that you have a good team available to make sure that you can do all of the other things that you can to get more divine tickets. This is the thing that's behind everything else. You need the good team to be able to grind for the other stuff. So you need to get your team ready. If you don't have a team that's balanced, for example, like maybe all of their levels are completely off, you can actually go to DML Planner and take a look at your dragons in the sigil section, for example, and see what their stats look like. This won't give you the full picture because when you add sigils and their multipliers, it's not going to be exactly as it showcases on here, but it's definitely a good way. So you've got a lot of enchantment stars and you don't want to do the maths. You can use this DML Planner website to actually see the difference in attack and health. So for example here, we've got Ikez at level 70, enchantment level 6, and an Osiris level 70, enchantment level 4. But at the moment, their health and their attack stats are very, very different, which means that this team would be very, very unbalanced. And this wouldn't necessarily be a very good team overall, but it would be a team. But if we were to boost Osiris to enchantment level 6, you'll see that they're a lot more balanced at this point. And then if we were to put Osiris one level above, he would actually outscale Ikez. So it's probably better to leave him at the same level as Ikez 76 star. But if you have a different dragon, such as one with really low attack, sometimes you can actually get away with putting them an extra level above. Like Bridget here, might even be a good idea to take her to level 71. But again, it's not going to be completely accurate because of the way that the calculation works, but it's really important that your dragons are even and your dragons have the elements you need to get things done. So the final thing that you can do to get more divine tickets is very obvious, and it would be to actually purchase them. However, I'm including this because there are a lot of things that really aren't worth the purchase this month. For instance, the only thing that would really be worth it, because, you know, we get talismans from divine tickets, so they're the main thing that you'll want from the event. The talismans themselves really is if we buy the talisman generator, you will unlock the ability to purchase Hypnos, although that's not a good idea, but you will earn talismans for the whole event, and you would also unlock the premium milestone rewards, but it is $10-ish for that. But the thing is, the milestone rewards do give you bonus things, like you can get the Don Dragon, for example. It will also give you more divine tickets if you get up to those milestones. And of course, there's things like gems and other useful things like enchantment tickets. However, this is probably one of the only worthwhile divine ticket purchases that you will probably be able to get. I'm warning you here because some people will go into the promotions section and they'll go and buy a bundle such as this one. 10 tickets for $10 is not worth it. Even that shrine that we just looked at, if you actually unlock things, you're going to get more divine tickets from that. And Raptor is not worth it. Then we've got bundles such as this Athena bundle, which is 150 tickets. But this bundle is like $100 US. This is not worth it whatsoever because you would gain a hell of a lot more tickets from doing dungeon grinding. That means that if you just saved up the gems, like say you purchased the on sale clam and used those gems, you'd get a hell of a lot more than 150 tickets, even with a mediocre team. So these bundles are not worth it. This bundle here, if you purchase this bundle when you're in the middle of this event, you will ruin your event. Do not purchase this bundle if your dragons are below level 50. Do not ever purchase these bundles here where the dragon is already fed to level 50 if you are in the middle of an event. Never ever do it, because if you say have level 30 dragons and you purchase that bundle, and then suddenly you're only going to have one dragon that's at level 50 and all of your others are going to be way underleveled. This will destroy your event. I cannot stress this enough, how bad this would be for you. This would completely derail all of your dungeon progress and it would completely ruin your chances at the castle event. I cannot stress enough that yes, you can buy tickets and things like that in this event, but there is close to nothing that is really worth it. The way that you can buy, air quotes, those tickets, the only real worthwhile purchases are going to be that talisman generator and using gems to gem the dungeon. Nothing else is worth it.